Hello, I'm Ellen. Today I'm going to talk about the Italian Sailor Moon fandom. I'm going to touch this topic because I've been contacted by the Mondsteinflug podcast, which is a German podcast in English language that you can listen to in one of the links that I'm going to give you in the description of the video. They've contacted me asking me about my impressions and my thoughts on the Italian fandom. They are exploring this matter. They are trying to know a lot about the various fandoms in the various countries in which Sailor Moon was famous in the 90s or maybe even more recently. Here in Italy, Sailor Moon arrived in 1995 in February. To the best of my memories. Okay, they asked me to talk about how Sailor Moon arrived in Italy, how it was perceived, how popular it was. So, story of Sailor Moon in Italy. If you are Italian and you're listening to this and you want to contribute with your thoughts and memories, please do so, because for sure I'm not going to be complete about this matter. I'm going to do my best, but more people giving their thoughts is going to be a good thing. So how was the situation in Italy when Sailor Moon arrived here? We have been having animes for the last 20 years. In the late 70s, the first animes arrived here in Italy. So we had a very vast experience with Japanese products. Animes were quite famous. We had, for instance, Versailles Nobara or Okuto no Ken. If you know something about these titles, you can see that they were created for in a public which was more adult than that of Sailor Moon. Okuto no Ken has violent scenes. Is a very hard story. Has a very hard story. And we had also animes like, I'm remembering the Italian title now, City Hunter, which is no, City Hunter is the original title. I'm confused because the protagonist was called Hunter in Italy, while his original name was Ryoseiba. I'm mentioning it because this anime had very sexual innuendos, which were not innuendos really, because I don't know if YouTube is going to censor this word. Rio and his hard-ons were quite famous and showed without any censorship in the anime. And in the manga, at least from what I recall, maybe I'm recalling bad because I have in mind more the manga. Okay, moving on. We also had many magical girls anime. We had Creamy Mimi, Magical Emmy. I've been searching before the original titles, but at least 4 or 5 animes of the Maho Shoujo genre, and girls liked them. Creamy in particular was quite loved. There were stories about young girls, usually primary school girls, who acquired magical items thanks to a pet usually, or an animal or pseudo animal that gave those items, magical items, to the girl, allowing the protagonist to enter, for instance, the entertainment world by becoming a singer like Creamy Memi or a magician like Magical Emmy. And I quite like those animes, but I thought that they were lacking something. I didn't care much for these girls that used these they are magical items to transform into a more beautiful woman or girl, or to solve their problems, everyday problems. I wanted, I would have loved, and I didn't know back then yet. I wanted girls who fought exactly like I saw in Senseiya, for instance, which was an anime with guys fighting evil to save the world, or they are goddess in the case of Senseiya. And I acquired that. Acquired, it's the wrong verb. I got that with Sailor Moon. Finally, there was an anime which had a team of girls that were fighting for a bigger good. Not just to satisfy their own needs or their dreams. They were doing something hard for selfless reasons, and it was beautiful to me, and not just for me but for a whole generation of girls. Sailor Moon was an instant hit. In the space of a few weeks it got very popular. I want to give you an insight on how the Italian television showed animes back then in the 90s. There was this network called Fininvest that had a program who was called bim-bum-bam, who was showed in Canale 5, it means channel 5, or Italia Uno, it would be channel 6, but if translated it is Italy 1. Bim Bum Bam was in one of these two channels for a time, in channel 5 and then in Italia 1. I mention it because that this program called Bim Bum Bam contained 4 animes, and it aired from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. and it is the sign of a generation. All 80s and early 90s kids remember it because it was the program that they watched when they came back for school or from school. And so Sailor Moon was aired in this Bim Bum Bam program. I want also to say to you that a detail about how school is organized here in Italy. Some kids go to primary school only half time and they get out by lunchtime, and others go full time and they go back home at 4 p.m. So I'm telling you this because this meant that the most important slot in the Bim Bum Bam program was the one of 4:30 p.m. Because by that time kids that went to primary school full time had the time to go back home, and the first anime they watched was the one of 4:30 p.m. Sailor Moon at the very beginning didn't have that slot. It had the first one, the 4 p.m. Slot, which was available to see only to kids who had already been home for hours since lunchtime. And I wasn't that fortunate back then. I went to school full time, and I had no idea Sailor Moon existed up until Saturday, because they aired this Bim Bum Bam from Monday to Saturday. And so I watched for the first time Sailor Moon on a Saturday. I think it was in the episode of the ballroom scene, the one in which Usagi and Mamoru first kissed. I was instantly enchanted by this new anime because of the magical girls, because they fought against evil, because of the romantic undertones of the story, and I adored it. And so the Fininvest network understood this, that I was just one of many girls who wanted to see Sailor Moon, so they, in time, I think 1 month, they moved Sailor Moon in their most important slot for 30 p.m. And by that time, the phenomenon exploded. It was in February, first aired. By the time summer had passed, I remember that in September of the next year, there was this not market, something like Walmart or Tesco, okay? They had school supplies, they sold the school supplies, and they had this promotion. If you bought 50 euros of school supplies, 50 euros. Back then it was 50,000 liras, but let's say 50 euros or $50, just to simplify. If you bought that amount of money of school supplies in their stores, they gave to you the transformation pen of Sailor Moon. And so it every girl desired it. I remember that when I got it, I was that happy because my parents didn't have the money to buy me other dolls or maybe the rucksack. I don't know if that's the right word. I mean, other school supplies with the Sailor Moon name in it, but that was free, and so I got that. It was very, very popular, I said. Girls loved it, and even boys loved it. They watch it because, well, boys and girls in general watched the whole anime, the whole bim-bum-bam program with the 4 animes in it. And little boys could pretend that they were watching this anime full of girls because they were attractive, and maybe because they had the short skirts, but not because they wanted to impersonate them. And yet some did, even without, I mean, maybe in made-up games among children, they impersonated the Sailor Warrior. I made my baby brother do that. And but also in schools it happened. It wasn't so rare. I know for sure, because I've heard people say it, that many guys or even girls, well, that question their gender identity, their sexuality, had the first thought about it when they watched Sailor Moon. Maybe young boys that were told by society that a boy being a little feminine was a bad thing. When they watched Sailor Moon, they finally could see a girl that was fighting, so she was strong anyway. And they could, this Sailor Moon mixed two things that usually were very separated in other animes: strength, beauty, and femininity. And finally it was one thing, and so it allowed them to discover themselves. And I've heard many guys that are even today fans of Sailor Moon tell that. And in the third series, the love story of Haruka and Michiru, and in particular the character of Haruka, who was this very masculine girl, it even allowed lesbian girls or non-binary girls who maybe by that time didn't understand that well their sexuality or gender identity, to see beyond the archetypes that society had imposed on them. So it was very important for that too. I'm going my memory back with the questions that had been given to me by the podcast. I've been trying to do this record this video. This is the fourth time I decided just go with it. Just go with it. Yes, they had asked me too about which characters were the most important, not the most liked. Well, Usagi is still the most universally loved character of Sailor Moon in Italy. Many girls identify with her, like I think in the rest of the world. Here, Makoto and Minako also are very loved. Minako for her exuberance and Makoto for her sweetness combined with her strength. Another character that is quite loved apart from Haruka is also Otaru. Many people loved Otaru. They called her their sweet child that hasn't been given enough attention by the first anime, and so these fans are particularly happy with the Crystal remake of Sailor Moon. Yes, going back to the story of the Sailor Moon anime. Like I told you, it was first aired in this bim-bum-bam program for kids. This bim-bum-bam program for kids, I'm saying it's for kids, but in reality, it had a very large public, because children, as kindergarten kids, watched bim-bum-bam, primary school kids watched it, middle school kids watched it, also high school kids watched Sailor Moon, and even young adults that went to university, because all these people had grown up with anime, and so they watch it, okay? And these things changed in time. This change in time, in 10 years time, everything changed, but I'm going to explain it later. What happened was that Sailor Moon became so popular that at least 1.5 million or nearly 2 million people were watching it in bim-bum-bam. And Fininvest, the network, decided that this anime had a lot of potential, and they moved it to a slot dedicated to Sailor Moon, never heard of for animes, which was the slot just before the news. In Italy, news are aired at 8 p.m. and so Sailor Moon was transmitted at 7:30 p.m. They created a new program for it. It was called Gamebot. bim-bum-bam still existed, so they created this program in another channel of the Fininvest network that wasn't dedicated to anime, but they created this slot just for Sailor Moon, and they put another anime to make company to Sailor Moon. I remember it was an anime with a girl and her sea whale, un oceano di avventure, an ocean of adventures. Okay, and in this new slot, Sailor Moon reached even 3 million people. I have to admit that I remember even 5 million, but I was recently corrected about that, so I'm not so sure. It was extremely popular. This was a good thing for Sailor Moon. From third season on, Sailor Moon was aired in this new evening slot, but it was also something that gained this anime the attention of associations of parents that were very, very worried about the messages that this anime was sending to their young and innocent kids. In particular, there was this psychologist that is universally hated by our Italian Sailor Moon fans. Her name was Vera Slepoj. She wrote an article in an important magazine telling parents that they had to be very careful in letting their young boys watch this anime, because this anime taught them that the women portrayed in there were too strong, and so kids, young boys, were confused about their sexuality. They started to impersonate girls, and it was bad. but they couldn't allow that. It confused the gender identities of kids, and it was horrible in the mind of this Vera Slepoj. I would say that today we would consider these words to be absurd, and I have to say that I know for sure that today in Italy a thing like that among my generation, 40 years old, is mostly considered no, I'm going to use a bad word and it merits that, but bull with the other word. No, I'm worried about Facebook not liking my word, maybe putting a censorship on it. Okay, you got my meaning. Okay, and this was a problem for Sailor Moon because the network had to put more attention to what they were showing. They had already censored something. For instance, Soisaito in the first season was from the very beginning portrayed as a woman. Wasn't that difficult because Soisaito behaved quite femininely and had this ponytail with the long hair, so it was a believable lie. In the fourth season, we didn't have that much censorship about Haruka's and Michiru's relationship, not like in the USA, in which they were portrayed as cousins. No. In the Italian dub, they were simply friends. I must say that even in the original version, the Japanese version of the anime, Haruka and Michiru were portrayed as, yes, lovers, but there wasn't ever any kiss, any embrace. There was this scene in which they touched hands in episode 109, yes. But it was all very tame, soft. There wasn't any visual censorship of their relationship, but when there were sexual innuendos and also innuendos about their love, they were taken out of the picture because it was too much for the Italian society for girls to be in love. Still, of course, fans got that. Not me, I must say. I was 11 years old, I think, but I don't get that. I still love their friendship relationship. I was naive and I haven't gotten the fact that they loved each other, but I still love them as characters, Haruka in particular. The very bad thing came when season 5 was on, because like I said, it was in the evening slot and they couldn't have in an anime in such an important time slot three boys who transformed into three girls. It was unheard of, it was terrible. What would Vera Slepoj say? So in Italy, the dubbed invented a lie, not at the very beginning, just after some episodes, a lie in which the Sailor Starlights were in reality the twin sisters of the three lights. So it was ridiculous because, for instance, Seiya, when he wanted to transform into a sailor, cried out, "Twin sister of bravery, come to me." Oh my god, it was terrible. And the sequence in which he transformed into a girl was censored, but just I don't know the word, just a little shadowed. So one could easily see what was happening. It was absurd. It was absurd. And maybe because they thought that they transforming it could mean that they were calling for their twin sister to substitute them. I don't know what they had in mind. The most heavy censorship the Italian adaptation did was, of course, in episode 200, because in that episode Usagi fought the bad guys all naked, and no, that nudity is another thing for which Italians have no acceptation, at least from the waist downwards. And so we had a lot of, in the Italian word is fermo immagine, just pieces of images with Usagi's face on it. We didn't see her nudity. And to try to give a sense of the story, the voice actor of Seiya, who was also the person in charge of the adaptation of the 5th season, narrated what happened during this fight. It was terrible, and there was a tape with all the songs of Sailor Moon that back in the 90s contained also the narration of this episode 200 in lato B, side B, and that tape was produced again in CD in 2011, and that side B had disappeared by then. They were ashamed of it, I suppose. I would love to find again that narration. It was terrible for me. I didn't like Seiya that much, and to hear him narrate that scene, because it was very floral, full of I mean, you should know how it was called. The 5th season, it wasn't called in the Italian dub Sailor Moon Stars. It was called Petali di Stelle, which meant oh my god, the word petalo. I don't know now what is it. I'm searching for it very in English. Petal. Okay. Stars, petal. I don't know. Okay, you got it. Also, for instance, the 4th season was called El Mistero dei Sogni, which means the mystery of dreams. So these floral names. The 2nd season was called Sailor Moon, La Luna Splende, The Moon Shines. Okay, so we had that. We in Italy had Sailor Moon in its first run from the 95 to the end, I think, of 97. And then we had reruns of the whole series, until I think 99 or 98. And then there was the rights block operated by Toei and Takeuchi, the author of the manga. And we didn't have Sailor Moon anymore, like every other country. In that period, a lot of things changed in the way animes were perceived in Italy, because Sailor Moon, like I told you, was heavily censored, but other animes too had gotten big cuts, especially Marmalade Boy. It's another shoujo anime which was completely episodes cancelled, and by then the people who had loved Sailor Moon, who loved Sailor Moon, had gone aware of this of the censorship that was applied to it, and they weren't happy, and they started protesting. But I understood Fininvest position on it, because they couldn't not censor their animes, otherwise they are the parents, the customers to which they were selling their adverts, would say that Fininvest was not worried enough about their kids, and with its animes it was trying to corrupt them. So it wasn't good for their image. Fininvest had no reason to make anime fans happy. They prefer to make the general public happy. Now, by then, there was already in Italy MTV, and MTV created an anime night. And in this anime night, they aired Inuyasha, Evangelion 2, so animes for teens, and with no censorship at all, because they had more freedom about this, because their public was teens, and parents didn't control that much as much the kids of that age. And this was the beginning of the differentiation of the public. I mean, like I told you before, bim-bum-bam and Fininvest in those first few years of the 90s and also up until the end, the public went from kindergarten to young adults. Now teens were watching MTV. Young kids were now being given things like Disney Channel with the Sky Network, and so the bim-bum-bam program was losing some public, because parents preferred to give their little kids other products more specific for children. And teens didn't have to watch just the Fininvest animes anymore. They could watch other things. And this led also to a change in how Fininvest aired animes. They relegated most of them to a morning spot, and they transformed their afternoon. They started to show American TV series, because that was the thing that had become popular with Italian kids too. We had first in the 90s Beverly Hills 90210, and also then DOC, Dawson's Creek, all those TV series. And so the new generation started to lose touch with animes, as they didn't grow up anymore with animes. This is quite important, because when Sailor Moon's rights were unblocked after a 10-year period in 2010, the panorama of the animes in Italy had totally changed. But this wasn't understood by the people that tried to relaunch Sailor Moon in Italy, because they thought Sailor Moon had been a big success just 10 years ago. People hadn't been watching it for 10 years, so we are just going to launch it again, and we're going to direct it towards primary kids, because we're interested in selling them school supplies, dolls. And it was a bad commercial strategy, because the bim-bum-bam, I think, it didn't exist anymore. They started to create a slot, afternoon slot again for animes, but kids were not interested anymore in watching animes at that hour. They were used to American TV series, to other things. And so Sailor Moon, they didn't watch it that much, and it kind of flopped. It was a pity, and the error of the people in charge of this strategy was to not understand that the people that really wanted to see again Sailor Moon were the teens and the young adults that had grown with it. 10 years had passed, so I remember I was by then already in university, or no, I had gotten out of university by then, so I was an adult. And I would have bought happily stationery for adults, merchandise like resin kits, not dolls, but figures done well, okay? And I wasn't offered any of that. There was a new edition of the manga, because the manga had already been published in Italy in the 90s. But there was a new edition in 2010, and we we were happy with that. Also, Italy was the first country in the world outside of Japan that got to remaster the anime and publish it on DVDs. Now, this is a thing that I made a research about. I went through the financial reports of Toei's. I have a major in economy, so I went through that, and I saw that they had this number for the licensing, international licensing in 2010, and the number was quite high, especially because in that year only Italy had bought the rights. I hope that it wasn't just for the anime, but it was also for the merchandise, because I remember it was €500,000, which is a big number. I hope that our Italian DVD company, which was Dynit, didn't spend that much for the anime, because the DVDs didn't sell that well. Now, it wasn't because Sailor Moon wasn't loved. Apart from the fact that, like I told you before, the afternoon slot was not a good one. They should have put it in the evening, maybe even at 10 o'clock, because adults wanted to watch it, and they were working in the afternoon. But mostly because Italians fans have a bad habit. By then they had acquired it. They watched their animes in streaming through illegal means, and there isn't here a big culture on buying DVDs. Streaming now here in 2020, okay, it's very popular in here too. Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, we have that. We love watching it in very good quality in big TVs. But animes, some people are quite happy to with watching things in their computers or their smartphones, and I couldn't care less about having the DVD copy. There is a thing for just very good fans, and so not many people bought the DVD. It's different. I know that, for instance, in France it's quite different, because I see they have a lot of animes at low prices, while here the prices for the animes are higher than in France. And also, when Dynit tried to sell the Sailor Moon anime, they divided the first season in 3 parts. 3 parts, each part costed €40, which meant that the whole first season costed €120, which would be 140 or $50. It's quite expensive for a first season. Later on they divided the other seasons in just 2 parts, but all the same the cost was €80 per season. Too much for a public that, okay, they wanted to see Sailor Moon, but they wanted to see in TV at the time that it was convenient for them. They didn't want to buy the DVD, not for €80. And so it wasn't such a good investment for Dynit. It didn't went as well, even if today a lot of people are searching for the episodes. Sailor Moon had been aired after 2010 at various times, sometimes in the morning. They counted at the point they had become aware that the public was not that of kids. It was aired in the morning in the hope of attracting the people that went to work while they were having their breakfast, or parents that they were fans of Sailor Moon when they were children and now had children, maybe that they had to accompany oh my god, that they had to go to school with, so they could watch Sailor Moon with their kids, along with their kids, during breakfast. And this is more or less the story of the first anime in Italy. what happened when Crystal was announced. When Crystal was announced, fans divided into two categories. There was one category that was very happy with it, but when the first images were leaked, they immediately thought, what is that? That is not the Sailor Moon I grew up with. I don't want to watch that thing. And others that they were not as much as the anime fans. They were fans of the manga, and they were finally happy because the manga was having an adaptation that didn't change the story as much. And well, I think this is a story that is common all over the world, but it attracted a lot of attention at the beginning in Italy. But a lot of fans watched the first episode and then they forgot about it because their nostalgia won them over. So they wanted their first anime and not a new version of Sailor Moon. So Crystal, just like everywhere else, had not controversial, mixed reception here in Italy, and it's not as popular, but this name of Sailor Moon is still quite popular here in Italy. For instance, when the new movie of Sailor Moon, the one that is going to be in the Japanese theaters in January, when it was announced, since it was a movie, the words Sailor Moon and movie were very attractive in the minds of the journalists, and they wrote articles about it. They mentioned in passing that it was the fourth season of Crystal, and even big newspapers had an article with this announcement because it attracted clicks. Because, like I told you, in the 90s there were millions of people watching Sailor Moon and many remembered it, and so maybe they had glanced at Crystal in passing. They were not interested in it, but the very idea that there was going to be a Sailor Moon movie was maybe they didn't even understand that it was going to be just another version of Crystal. But it attracted their attention, and so journalists used that. I'm not even going to count how many English errors I'm going when talking about this, because if I'm going to do so, I'm going to cancel even this recording, and no, I have to do it, and just that. Another question that was asked to me was how ships have changed over time. Well, I don't think they have changed. People remained faithful to their first love. Of course, we had, like everyone else, the first 4 seasons with Usagi and Mamoru, and many loved Mamoru. And many others too loved Seiya when he appeared in 5th season. Now I have to tell you some details about the Italian dub to make you understand a little better. The voice actor of Mamoru in the Italian dub was absolutely loved by many, but he had a very mature voice, masculine voice, okay? And since he was also not old actor, he was 40 by the time that he interpreted Mamoru. When he spoke to Usagi in some scenes, he had a very paternalistic tone. He seemed like a big brother chastising a baby sister. So this wasn't ideal for a love story, and some loved his voice, some other didn't like the tone he had in these scenes. And in Stars, we, like I told you before, we had the Seiya dubbed by the people responsible for the adaptation of the whole season. And I told you that he also narrated the whole last episode. And so when he dubbed Seiya, he also did some voiceovers during the episode in which he was emphasizing Seiya's feelings for Usagi. And also he had a sensual voice, let's call it like that, a young voice. And so many, also because of the voice actor, loved Seiya more with Usagi, even because of that. Even if, apart from our dub, I know that a lot of fans think that Seiya is better for Usagi because he is more or less her same age. Because he is fun like her, not as mature as Mamoru. So these are characteristics that are common for everyone because they are in the original anime. But I'm trying to tell you that they were stressed by our dub. So I would say that today the fans of Usagi and Seiya and Usagi and Mamoru are more or less 50-50 or maybe 60-40 for Usagi and Mamoru, okay? But I wouldn't be, I don't know, if you are Italians and you are listening to this and you have a contribution to give, please do so for the percentage, because I'm not sure I'm very good at estimating it. This is because I'm a Usagi Mamoru fan, and I mostly read and go to pages in which there are Usagi and Mamoru fans. Even if, like in the international Sailor Moon pages, every time you put a Seiya image without saying anything, Seiya fans flock to this image to say he was better with Usagi than Mamoru. So, what else? I'm trying to remember. Yes, the last question was about the fandom, the fanworks that were produced about Sailor Moon by the Italian fandom. We were not so active with the fanworks. Today it's mostly fan arts and cosplays. Fan arts mostly because we have very good artists like Marco Albiero or Riccardo Bacci, who is a very good colorist, that do Sailor Moon fan arts that seem original, or no, I wouldn't say better than the original, because that's not it. Albiero has been responsible for designing the drawings you can see in the merchandise that is still used all over the world for Sailor Moon, because he was contacted by Toei when Sailor Moon was relaunched in 2010. So his drawings are more or less official, and sometimes he still draws a Sailor Moon. About fanfiction, okay, in Italy fanfictions were mostly popular thanks to a website called EFP, which is more or less the equivalent of fanfiction.net. And we had our Sailor Moon section. I started writing in it in 2008. Before that, there were a lot of Usagi and fanfictions stories in which Mamoru was depicted as a typical alpha male, very a ladies man that has been with many women and desired Usagi greatly, not at all like the tame and nerdy guy that was portrayed in the original anime. I didn't like this portrayal as much, this fan portrayal. And also there were some stories about Usagi and Seiya, in which Usagi in reality wanted to be with Seiya, and she was tired of being destined to be a princess and a queen and the mother of Chibiusa, and she just wanted to be with Seiya and be a normal girl. So this was the main theme of this kind of Usagi and Seiya fanfictions. We had some romantic stories, hot stories with sexual scenes in it. I didn't like them as much. I would say that. In fact, I started to write my fanfiction because I thought, I'm sorry to say this, but it's the truth. I wrote them because I thought even I could wrote a sex scene better than these ones, and so my first story was about Usagi and Mamoru's relationship just after the end of the 5th season. I wanted to see how they were going to reconnect after being apart for so long. I'm mentioning myself because I have to say it's a fact, not just an opinion. I've colonized a little the Italian fandom for Usagi and Mamoru, and also maybe the inners. The Italian fandom, I mean, it's in this website mostly EFP. And I've been writing my saga for the last 12 years, and I've noticed that many people that wrote other fanfics started reading mine and then stopped writing theirs. Maybe also because time had passed and they didn't have the inspiration for it anymore. I have to say that Crystal didn't spark the inspiration for new fanfics in the Sailor Moon Italian fanfiction fandom. What else? Yes, my saga is centered around Usagi, Mamoru, and the inners, and some relationships I created for them. Haruka and Michiru are present in my story, but they are not the main protagonist. I have to say that there are still a lot of stories, not a lot, there is still a market, let's call it like that, for Haruka and Michiru fanfictions. And in particular, I have to mention a very good fanfiction writer, Italian fanfiction writer. Her name is Ipazia of Alexandria in EFP. She wrote an AU about Haruka and Michiru. And she had been writing it for the last few years. It's a story in which Haruka is a soldier that went to Iraq in war and then came back to USA and had a PSTD and had to go to a psychologist, and the psychologist was Michiru. And I personally liked her story a lot. Her portrayal of Haruka is exceptional. She also inserted Aotaru in her story, and she's a very sweet child in her, a 3-year-old child, I think, in her story. Since it's an AU, after, I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation for the English language. Ipazia transformed her fanfiction into an original story by changing the names of Haruka and Michiru, and is self-publishing now in Amazon. I wish I could do that. I can't, because my story is deeply rooted in the Sailor Moon fandom. I cannot change the names. It wouldn't mean anything. My story would lack all meaning. There are continuous references to the original anime. And so this is mostly it. I'm going to see right now what other questions have been asked of me, but this is it mostly. Fanworks, character ships, things haven't changed that much. Like in all in the rest of the world, we have been deeply divided by Crystal. I don't like it. Other people love it and cannot wait for the new for the new version, for the new movie. Okay, I'm reading now the questions. What common themes of these fan works have been over the years? No, I answered to that. No, I think I have talked most or less about everything they have asked of me. If you're listening to this and you have any more questions, please ask them in the comment section. I could do a part 2 about this topic, even if I think I've covered most of it. If you have been talking about your country's fandom, your country's Sailor Moon fandom, it would be interesting to know about it. I don't think I've been the first one to do this kind of videos, even because there was this podcast, German podcast, that first had the idea. So I'm very interested in it. I think I'm going to, at least they offered it to me, to participate in the podcast. And yes, there is a last very, very important thing that I forgot to tell you about, just to make you understand how Sailor Moon is still important in Italy. Before I was telling you that the newspaper used the name to get clicks. A friend of mine, Leone Locatelli, has been doing one of my cats has been doing a collaboration with a museum, Mufant, it's called, a museum in Turin, and he is preparing an exhibit of Sailor Moon, just dedicated to Sailor Moon, which is going to show merchandise of the 90s and of the last 5 years. And it's going to be, well, an event. It's going to last. What is happening with these cats? And this one is called Endymion, just to let you know, okay? And it's going to be in the Mufant Museum from September 19 to January 10th, 2021. If you are in a country near Italy and you want to come and see this exhibit, it would be beautiful. I'm going to be present in as a voice, I don't know, relatore. I'm going to do a presentation more or less like this one during the inauguration and maybe later on, I don't know. And I think it's going to be a success because it's a name that attracts the attention of fans. We have already inaugurated a statue of Sailor Moon. Yes, I am telling you this to end this video. Some months ago, the Mufant, the museum, decided that they were going to have a poll in their Facebook page to decide to which anime they were going to dedicate a statue, an iron statue. They told people choose among Sailor Moon and Captain Harlock, which is a very famous and iconic anime of the 70s, I think. And now the fans of Captain Harlock are I'm not a fan of that, but they think that their anime is a superior to Sailor Moon, so they made a little fun of it. They thought that their anime was going to win without any doubt, and my friend Leone Locatelli was against this easy win, and he posted this poll in a lot of pages, not only him, other people too. You are seeing in this video how many cats I have. I'm a cat lady, I guess. Okay, they are angry and hungry. So many Facebook pages, Sailor Moon pages, invited their fans to vote, and Sailor Moon won by a large number, and so people became aware that not fans, we were aware that Sailor Moon was famous among us, but other people became aware that it was a very a name that still attracted attention. The museum had the inauguration of the statue. It ended up in newspapers again, and so just to show you how much it is still loved here, Sailor Moon. We are not going to forget about it. And I think this exhibit is a big opportunity for a lot of fans to know a little more about Sailor Moon, and also to remember the fond memories of their childhood. We are going to show, I think, also dolls, maybe. Or I'm saying we, but it's mostly Leone. And the museum. There are going to be a lot of merchandise of the 90s. And no, I am going, in my mind it's a word, Viale dei Ricordi. I don't know how to say it in English. This is it mostly. Okay, so please go in the description to go and listen to the podcast of the people who gave me this idea. And if you have comments or any other criticism too, please comment the video. I'd be very happy to listen to your take on this matter, on this very large topic of the Italian Sailor Moon fandom. It's been a pleasure to tell you about it. Thank you for listening to me. Thanks for the passion, because I think I've talked for an hour or more. I don't know. Bye.